Okay, so this is my friend Donovan. He's a former financial analyst and he still actually works for a bank. And I wanted to get his opinion on Tesla stock. So, Donovan, what are your thoughts on Tesla's car business?
I think Tesla's car business is, obviously it's their main business right now. It's been growing, every quarter. Um, been growing every quarter. They've been delivering more and more vehicles every quarter as they ramp up their capacity to produce more vehicles. As they produce more plants, release more models. So as we know right now, they have four models: the S, the X, the 3, and the newest model is the Y, which is supposedly their most profitable model. So they delivered right under 89,000 vehicles during the first quarter of 2020. Um, but when you look at the valuation of Tesla's market cap is somewhere near 100 and I think 110 billion dollars. The funny thing with that is that it's twice, or it's more valuable than the market cap of both GM and Ford, two of the biggest auto manufacturers in the world. And during the first quarter of 2020, GM delivered 618,000 vehicles and Ford delivered 516,000 vehicles. So you're looking at over a million vehicles, which is more than 10x the number of vehicles that Tesla delivered, but somehow Tesla is more valuable than both GM and Ford combined. So I think that lends to the fact that the market obviously believes that Tesla is going to get there eventually, and that maybe there's something else behind the car business that Tesla is being valued for. The way that I understand the Model Y is that it's the most profitable model that Tesla's making. So in other words, it costs the least amount to make for what they can sell it for. So they have the greatest margin on that model. I know that they've recently ramped up production in a production facility in California and in Shanghai due to current events. So I think the production facility in California has been shut down for indefinitely until they can get back up, which I think is why Elon kind of went a little nuts on his last earnings call when he called it a fascist ruling that California has to be shut down. But no, I think that if they can continue to ramp up the production in those facilities, I think the projections for the end of 2021 is that they'll have the capacity to produce a million vehicles, which will be pretty big for them.
Okay, so Tesla has the car business. Obviously, they have like the solar business, but what do you think about the battery business?
Yeah, so I think the battery business, it's a great vertical integration for Tesla, and by that I mean that they're also controlling the supply of the stuff that's going into their car, right? I think that they have a first mover advantage in the electric vehicle business because they're the kind of the first ones that are doing this with their entire line of vehicles. I know that other auto manufacturers though are kind of seeing that trend move forward, and while they don't see it probably happening as fast as Tesla does, you have companies like GM partnering with LG to build a battery plant. I think it's in Ohio. I'm gonna have to fact check me on that, but it's kind of similar to how Tesla is doing something with Panasonic. But I think that their battery business is probably one of the biggest competitive advantages they have over other auto manufacturers.
Are there any other um, competitors in the car industry or battery industry that you think shareholders should keep an eye on?
In terms of competitors, I think you should be watching, all auto manufacturers because they all have the ability to pivot towards an electric vehicle. They all have the ability to do what Tesla is doing in terms of making electric vehicles and putting their resources and capital towards that production. And we already see the beginning of some auto manufacturers doing that. For example, with GM and LG.
Yeah, so I know we were just talking about it. There's a lot of the auto manufacturers are putting semi-autonomous or autonomous kind of technology in their cars. I know that you have a Volvo that has it. Can you explain a little bit about the semi-autonomous feature that you have in your car? And then um,
Yep.
I think one of the big things about it, before you get into it, is that it seems like Tesla's building a lot of technologies, fully autonomous stuff like that. But can you use them? Like, can you use them every day? I think
Yeah.
the answer right now is no. But anyways, if you can explain how the autonomous feature in your car works.
Yeah. So I can explain. I don't know if I'm going to get all of the names of the features correct, but basically what my car can do is it has a series of, I think, 10 cameras on the car. So near the front lights, the headlights, the very middle of the car, the sides of the car, and so it can I can turn on a feature where it'll actually read the lines, and the wheel will move and kind of guide the car and keep it between the lines. So every 10 seconds or 15 seconds, I have to put my hand on the wheel, and it senses that if not, it'll actually turn off. So
Oh,
it's not the best feature because
right.
if I don't touch the wheel, it turns off.
Yeah.
But and then there's a spacing feature. So I have like three sets of spacing, so it'll determine how close it keeps me to the car in front of me. And so for me, the biggest use for it is in stop and go traffic, right? Because I just turn on the spacing feature, I turn on the auto drive feature, and so I just keep my hand on the wheel, but I don't actually have to do any of the braking, stopping, and going, and it'll keep me, in line and from rear-ending the car in front of me.
Hmm. Yeah. See, I feel like that's useful. I don't
Yeah,
all the Tesla features that they have, they're really cool, but I don't in the real world, at least the world we live in now, I just don't see them being useful, I guess you
yeah. I mean, when you're going like 70 on a highway and there's a turn coming up, I'm not gonna let the auto drive,
could.
you
Yeah,
know,
not yet.
trust it 100%.
Yeah, and the fact that a lot of the updates seem, from what I've seen on YouTube, a lot of them say like beta. So it's like if
Yeah,
you are updating, like you are literally a tester on a California highway or something like that. And yeah, I
yeah. I
think
think
that is weird.
the latest thing that Tesla came out with, or the biggest headline, was that Tesla cars can now read stop signs and traffic lights, right?
Mhm.
A little bit misleading. If you dig into it a little bit more, the only thing that a Tesla can do is it can now read a stop sign and read a stoplight and know that you need to stop, basically.
Oh, it
And
doesn't do it for
so
you?
so it knows it's red. I don't know if it knows it's red, yellow, or green, but
Uh-huh.
basically what it does is as you come up to the stoplight, it'll put out a red line in front of the car, and it'll tell you that's where it's going to stop, right? And so if it's green, the driver actually has to like override the autopilot and say keep going through it. So actually what the Tesla car is doing is it's just reading that there's this traffic signal here, and that it's going to stop, at this red line where I'm showing you, and you have to either, override it for a green or let it stop and then tell it when to go.
Huh. That
So it's basically
not what I thought it did.
it's not exactly reading a stop sign or reading a traffic light.
Right. Huh.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know that. Okay. Well, that's crazy. All right. Let's get into the next question. What do you think of Elon's tweets that he did after earnings or the night after earnings? And what do you think he should remain CEO?
I mean, obviously, Elon should remain CEO. I think I don't know anyone who would say that besides people who have a short position, because if Elon wasn't the CEO, who knows what would happen to the company. Um, as far as his tweets, probably not the best thing for the company. I mean, I think he's just really frustrated with the whole situation. Things were going really well for them. They're ramping up production, they're ramping up deliverables, and all of a sudden, we're in the situation we're in today. And it's frustrating for him probably because their goal was 500,000 vehicles delivered in 2020, and they're probably not going to hit that now because of the current situation.
Do you
So
think that's why he said that he thinks it's valued too high?
that, I mean, who knows what's going on in that guy's head? I mean, he's called out short sellers. He's, I mean, he's even said he's going to take the company private at $420. Interesting number, and and said he had funding secured. He got investigated by the SEC, and now he has to have all of his tweets that are said about the company's financial health approved by a lawyer before he can actually tweet them out. So, I mean, he's going to say whatever he wants to say, and it's like, do you want a CEO that's going to say whatever the hell he wants, or do you want a CEO that's going to play it by the book and just play it safe?
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think it's safe to say, or what do you think about the price actually being tied to Elon himself. I mean, it seems like it's pretty well tied considering he can say one tweet or a series of tweets and then they lose $13 billion of market cap.
Yeah, I mean, I think the number is staggering. You know, when you say $13 billion, it's huge. At the same time, though, the ability for the stock to swing up or down $13 billion is not that big. It's similar to, you know, say Amazon, right? Amazon announced that it was going to buy Whole Foods for, I think, $80 billion, right?
Mhm.
And that day the stock gained $80 billion in market cap.
So they got it for free,
Basically, on that
basically.
day, if they sold everything of Amazon that day, it would have been free. But you know, the stock seems to go up and down every day on different news. So it is what it is.
Mhm. Okay, so this is the part that I think will help a lot of people, and it's going to help me. Can you explain the accounting practices that are raising the eyebrows of investors and short sellers?
Yeah, so the one thing I did see recently was that I think the president of Greenlight Capital, who's obviously has a big short position in Tesla, he was questioning the accounts receivable practices for Tesla. And so what he's basically saying is that Tesla has near $1 billion in accounts receivable. And what he's questioning is that as a car company who most of your profits or your revenues come from selling cars, that when you sell a car, you get the money right away. So even as a consumer, when you purchase a car from Tesla and you get a loan from the bank makes Tesla full. They pay Tesla for the car, and you pay the bank back in the loan. So they're saying, where is that money? Why is it all in receivables? And what Tesla's saying is that, oh, our quarter ended on a weekend, so we didn't get the money yet from the bank. So they were saying it's like a bank wire timing issue.
Huh.
But lo and behold, next quarter the receivables are still at about $1 billion.
Hmm.
So who
Okay.
knows?
Who knows? Okay. This is a big one. Do you think Tesla is over or undervalued, and why?
Let me think about that one for a second. All right. So question of the day. Um, I'll say that I think that when you look at the valuation of a company in the market, there's obviously different ways to value companies. You can value it from, you know, a bottom up fundamental analysis. You can look at different ratios. You can discount their cash flow in the future based upon what you think they're going to sell. How many units are they going to sell? I know that some people value them at, you know, above $1,200 because they think that they're going to have 30% of the EV market in the future, or they think that they're going to be selling 4 million cars by the end of 2030. But I think what you really got to think about is for yourself, if you want to invest in Tesla, is how long are you planning to hold the stock, right? So if you are only going to hold the stock for, you know, the next dip or the next bump, then you're really beholden to the rumors that are going to come out, because people are going to buy the rumor, they're going to sell the news, right? That's kind of the old adage. If you're planning to hold Tesla long term, say in a Roth or in a 401k, then if you believe Tesla is going to be the market leader in EV or in, say, the battery business or the solar business, or if they're going to integrate solar and battery and car, then it's probably a pretty good hold as a long term investment. But if you're going to hold it short term, then you got to figure out, what is Elon going to tweet, what is, what rumors are going to come out about Tesla in terms of production capacity, um, or maybe you're just looking at the next earnings report, right? And so then you're kind of betting whether or not you think they're going to hit that production level. Are they going to hit that earnings per share estimate? So then it's looking at consensus earnings per share, production limits, and whether or not you think they're going to hit that or not. So I'll leave you with a it's up to you kind of answer,
Oh man.
because I don't know.
Okay. All right. If you had to answer, what would you say? If you had to answer, just simple. In your opinion.
So in my opinion, I'll kind of answer with what I've done with Tesla, and
Okay.
I haven't touched it.
Okay. That's fine.
Yep.
Neither. And you know what? Neither have I. Okay. Now, with the under overvalue, I guess you kind of answered it right now, or you answered it in that question. I was going to ask you, is Tesla a buy right now? And if not, then when and why? Like, is there like a, I know we were discussing how Morningstar has them, I believe, at a $238 um, price.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Well, and I know that in the recent since they beat consensus earnings in the first quarter of 2020, a lot of people have raised their kind of their baseline price or fair value estimate for Tesla. Um, I think another interesting point that you might think about is that Tesla is all about the shift to the electric vehicle market, right? But if you look at another kind of external factor which impacts that is oil, and you look at kind of what's happening with the oil market right now and how much oversupply we have, I think to me that kind of says, oil is not going anywhere anytime soon. We had such an oversupply of oil that oil prices went negative for futures, but obviously it's because there's nothing happening in the world right now. No one was using any oil, but it also says that there's a lot of oil still out there, and that maybe the kind of breaking point of the tipping point to electric vehicles is not as close as some people think.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, we heard talking before about this. Is that if you're a car dealership, you haven't sold many cars recently, and if you
Yeah.
have a car, or if you have a car for sale, so it's going to probably be at a discount for potential customers, and gasoline is going to be really cheap. I think it may be what's the word? Not an attractive buy for a potential customer, because now you can spend less than even a Model 3, get a comparable gasoline powered car,
Mhm.
but know that you're going to have the huge network of gas stations, and the oil is going to be cheaper, and you also don't have to wait to get your car charged. And I can't imagine,
Yeah.
well, definitely most people don't have a car charger available, especially if they don't have a
Yeah.
Tesla, obviously. So I think it'll be interesting to see how this whole oil market, or the dip in the oil, not even dip, the crash of the oil market affects car sales. I think it's crazy how tied in the cost is, or the price is, to the hype. Like I can't
Yeah.
remember a company, well, nobody really tweeted. I can't think of anybody tweeting this much and seeing a fluctuation that high. It's like,
Yeah.
it's
I mean,
ridiculous.
yeah. Tesla's like a crazy company. Like Elon is probably like the smartest guy of our generation, right? Like he's crazy. He just does the most insane things. He goes on the Rogan's podcast, like smokes a joint. He almost he gets investigated by the SEC for saying to take the company private. But at the same time, like, is he going to come up with that thing that's just going to change the world? And
I
maybe
know
it's not a test.
they're doing the satellite thing. The mini satellite thing. Isn't that SpaceX, right?
Yeah, I mean, they got SpaceX, they got Solar City, um, they got the Tesla car company, they got the gigafactories coming up. I mean, it seems like he has the kind of blueprints to change the world, or change the the thought on like what battery storage. Um, it could be even something with SpaceX, which is huge. But
Hmm.
I think if you're investing in Tesla, you're taking a bet on Elon more than the company.
That's a good point.